saying, get me the F out of here when it finally came to an end between Bill Belichick and Bob Kraft. And, I'm naive sometimes. When I saw the comments from Bob Kraft to the Dudes on Dudes podcast at the Fanatics Fest last month, there's a sentence I never would have dreamed I would ever say in my life. But when I saw Kraft asked about the best movie made while he's been owner of the Patriots, I thought maybe the ice is melting between Kraft and Bill Belichick, because instead of saying Tom Brady was the best move, drafting him with pick number 199, if you haven't heard, in the 2000 draft, acquiring the rights to Bill Belichick was the best movie ever made. But alas, any sense that all is well between Belichick and Kraft went out the window when Kraft drew a response from Belichick. And it prompted me to go back and take a closer look at what Kraft said. And this is how people engage in public battles without making it look like they're engaging in public battles. They don't come out and say, that guy's an asshole. They're much more subtle about it. And it's backhanded. It's passive aggressive. And when I went back and looked at what Belichick said, I understand why, when I look at what Kraft said to get this started, I understand why Belichick, who's probably looking for anything that would be an indirect diss, I can understand why Belichick said what he said. So here's a quick summary. Here's what Kraft said on the Dudes on Dudes podcast at the Fanatics Fest last month. And we wrote about it a few days ago. It somehow got missed. It got overlooked. MassLive.com had an item, so we thought it was worth passing along. Kraft was asked about the most important decision that he ever made with the Patriots. He said, the one that got questioned the most was in 1999. I gave up a number one draft pick for a coach that had won a little over 40% of his games to get him out. I don't know if there are any Jets fans here. I think getting Bill Belichick to come to the Patriots in 1999 was a big risk, and I got hammered in the Boston area, but he was with us for 24 years. Now, what he's referring to is Belichick had a pre-existing agreement to become the coach of the Jets when Bill Parcells stepped down, and Belichick got thrust into that job, and he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to work for the Jets. He wrote on the cocktail napkin, I hereby resign as HC of the NYJ. And then one thing led to another. He wanted to go to the Patriots. The Patriots wanted him. He got traded de facto to the Patriots, and the rest is history. But the way it was couched by Kraft, yeah, it looks like Kraft is taking this big risk. He's going out on a limb to sign this pariah of a coach that nobody wants. Be careful, be careful. And we've seen that time and again. Kraft went out on a limb for Bill Belichick, that no one really thought that Bill Belichick, who had been fired as Browns coach, even though he shouldn't have been. Well, Browns-Ravens coach. The Browns never fired him. They were the Ravens by the time they were fired him. But regardless, he was the coach in Cleveland. He was part of that transition to Baltimore, and then he was out. So, and he'd been a very successful defensive coordinator. But Kraft's point is, people thought this guy was never going to be a good coach. And I took a chance. I saw something in him. I knew, despite his reputation for being an ogre or an asshole or whatever, I saw it in him and it worked. So Belichick, when he was asked about what Kraft had to say, the same kind of passive-aggressive, not obvious, but still more obvious than what Kraft said. Here's what Belichick said. As I told Robert multiple times through the years, I took a big risk by taking the New England Patriots head coaching job. I already had an opportunity to be the head coach of the New York Jets, but the ownership situation was unstable. I had been warned by multiple previous Patriots coaches, i.e. Bill Parcells, probably, as well as other members of other NFL organizations and the media, that the New England job was going to come with many internal obstacles. I made it clear that we would have to change the way the team was managed to regain the previously attained success. So, yeah. Take that, Bob Kraft. That's Belichick's position. So anyway, to the extent that I foolishly believed that all was well, or at least that Bob Kraft was trying to extend an olive branch, nah. First of all, on further review, he probably wasn't. Second of all, if it was, Belichick basically said, take that branch and shove it. So The discord continues between owner and coach who partnered for, and look, for good reason. I mean, it was reported, and I can't remember who reported it, but it's been accepted as true that when Arthur Blank, the owner of the Falcons, was doing his due diligence on Bill Belichick, Bob Kraft said, don't trust him. I mean, that's basically saying don't hire him. I mean, if you don't trust your coach, why are you hiring him? So, interesting. Very interesting if Belichick ever makes it back to the NFL. At this point, who knows? But one thing that I know is far crazier stuff has happened in the NFL. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.